Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the Live Well with Parkinson's seminar on how might supplements, diet and herbs help your Parkinson's symptoms. And I'd like to introduce Helen Rideout, who is a qualified medical herbalist. And obviously the surname is no coincidence, she's my stepdaughter as well. So welcome Helen, thank you for joining us this evening.
So yes, thank you very much for inviting me, Jane. Obviously Jane is my stepmom, and through Jane I have really found a deep interest in working with people with Parkinson's. That's why I wanted to come today and share what I could with you. So my name is Helen Rideout, and I am a medical herbalist. I don't know if people have heard of that profession, but basically to be a medical herbalist, you have to do some quite intense training. You have to do a degree, standard medical degree, for 3 years, where you study alongside medics. You study anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, clinical skills, as well as the holistic side with the herbal medicine and nutrition and lifestyle advice. So I think it's a really lovely marriage of the more natural side of things with the conventional medical side of things. And what we can do is we can draw from proper scientific research, and we can also work in a holistic way. So I think we're in a perfect position to help people. A little bit more about me. I'm a member of the National Institute of Medical Herbalists. That means that basically the institute is a very professional body, and if you ever want to see a herbalist, then I would recommend that you go through the National Institute of Medical Herbalists to find one near you. And the way to do that is in the reference document that is going to be shared with you at the end of the session. Okay, so what do medical herbalists do? I've already said that a little bit, but basically we don't try and treat just symptomatically. We will look at the whole person. So we will look at everything that is happening for you. So we will look at all the different systems of the body, so be that digestive, nervous system, urinary system, anything that's happening for you. We will try and marry it together and look at an approach that's going to target everything for you at the same time. I think sometimes people, when they're ill, they could have lots of different things going on, and they might have to go to the hospital. They might see a gastroenterologist, they might see a neurologist, and sometimes they're like, why aren't these people talking to each other? These things are connected. So that's what we're all about, is trying to find the connections. Some herbalists do specialize in Parkinson's. So if you're looking for a herbalist, you can try and ask them, do you specialize in Parkinson's? Because obviously it is a very specialist subject, and you probably will want to see a herbalist that really knows what the disease entails. So today's talk, I'm going to try and do quite a lot. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. If it feels rushed at any point, or it's going too fast, just maybe put that in the chat. But what I'm going to do for 10 minutes is talk about a bit of diet advice, try and hone in on the questions that I know come up a lot for people. Then 10 minutes for questions, then 10 minutes around supplements that may be helpful for Parkinson's disease. This is obviously quite a contentious area, and I know there's not always definitive answers on this, but what I'm hoping to be able to do for you today is to give some recommendations that I think would be helpful, but obviously there are no guarantees. And then the third part of the talk is going to be about herbs for Parkinson's. I'm just going to hone in on 3 or 4 herbs that are the most commonly known of or used for Parkinson's. Okay, and then there'll be 10 more minutes for questions about herbs. And then, as Jane says, if you want to stay on afterwards, we can do a bit more questions as well. Okay, so nutrition and diet. So the best way to get your nutrients is always going to be through your food. So that's why I wanted to start in this place rather than starting with supplements. But I'm really, really aware that in Parkinson's disease, it's not just as simple as I know I need to eat a healthy diet. It can be difficult to make that happen due to, movement difficulties or difficulties feeding yourself or difficulties with swallowing. So I think it's my big take-home message about nutrition is going to be, if you are having difficulty, please do talk to your consultant or your GP and ask for a referral to a dietitian or a neurodietitian, because that can be really, really helpful to have some help with swallowing, for example. I don't know if people have seen, but there's a really, really good talk on the Parcon conference that's just happened through Parkinson's UK. It was on the 2nd day. I think it happened last weekend, but it's still available through Parkinson's UK website. And there's a link to it in the references document. But there's a dietitian, a neurodietitian that speaks on that talk, and she is full of a lot of information. So I would really recommend listening to that talk. So if you can't get a referral to a neurodietitian or a dietitian through the NHS, or if you do want to spend money on going to a private nutritionist, then just make sure that you go to see someone who's reputable. So I have put a link to the register where you can find a nutritional therapist who is worth their mustard, or whatever the phrase is. Okay. So yeah, this is just a little quote from another resource that you might find really useful that's on the Michael J. Fox Foundation research website, and it's about diet. So they've put together a whole document that sort of collates all the information around nutrition and diet. And this was just a little sentence at the beginning of it to just say that we really don't know if any of the diets definitely work or if any nutritional change can work for Parkinson's, but what they are seeing is that there are some positive outcomes, but we're not sure about anything yet. But I don't think that's a reason to not try things. Okay, next slide. So this is a summary of my diet advice, and I'm sure a lot of you are really aware of this already. And a lot of it is just super, super common sense advice. To eat whole foods. So I don't know if everyone knows what whole foods means. It means basically making it yourself rather than buying pre-prepared foods that may contain, preservatives and different chemicals that you don't necessarily want to be bringing into your body, or trans fats. A lot of pre-made food contain fats that are not healthy for you, and reducing sugary foods. So a lot of grains. I've written down grains here that are gluten-free grains. We're going to talk about the should we go gluten-free or not question shortly. Soluble and insoluble fibre are super important. As I'm sure all of you are aware, keeping your bowels regular is one of the most important things that you can do, and it is one of the most common problems that people have with Parkinson's is not going to the toilet regularly. We want to be trying to aim for going to the toilet at least once a day, because that can have a massive impact on your health. And then I know you're always being told to drink at least 1.5 to 2 litres of fluid every day, but this is really, really, really probably the most important thing. We're going to talk about antioxidants and their role in stopping cell death and protein, but this is obviously an important topic, because you need to make sure that you're not taking it at the same time as your levodopa. And then good fats. Okay, so let's move on. So the gluten-free question, this is probably one of the most common questions with PD and diet, like, should I go gluten-free? Is there any evidence? Is it going to make a difference? It's quite a big thing to like go gluten-free. Jane has pretty much been gluten-free, and I don't know whether she feels like it's helped her, but possibly it has. So gluten is contained in wheat, barley and rye. There isn't much evidence at the moment that it can have a huge effect on Parkinson's disease. But if you are intolerant to gluten, then I would definitely recommend cutting it out. So if you are noticing after you've had gluten, am I a bit bloated? Are my bowel habits affected by it? Then, you know, maybe it is a good idea to cut it out. The thing about gluten sensitivity in Parkinson's is that a lot of the symptoms have quite a crossover, you know, mood and memory changes, brain fog, you know, these are things that are common to both conditions. But so why do they think gluten might be implicated in Parkinson's disease? Well, it's all to do with this role of the gut and the brain and how they're connected. And if you want to know more about that, then that talk that I was talking about on Parcon, they talk a lot about the gut-brain axis and how they have now proven that there is a massive link between dysbiosis, so imbalance in your gut, and your brain health. Gluten can cause inflammation in the gut. So if you are intolerant to it, it is possible that it could be affecting your brain chemistry. So there's a bit of information there about how gluten causes these problems. And it's a bit of a complicated situation to do with the immune system getting confused, because gluten is very similar to the nervous system tissues. So your body can end up actually attacking itself because it gets confused because it thinks it's trying to attack the gluten. That's kind of the summary on that one. So this is a bit more about the gut-brain connection. You can follow the links later, but this is just to show that they had proven that there was the connection between the gut and the brain by people who had had their vagus nerve, which is the big long nerve that runs all the way up through your abdomen and into your brain. Some people had to have that cut due to having gastric surgery, and those people ended up being much less likely to get Parkinson's, you know, much further along the line. So that was the first big clue that there was this link. So Parkinson's, as you know, is an inflammatory condition. So when the blood-brain barrier is affected by inflammation, that's when molecules that shouldn't get into the brain or proteins that shouldn't be getting into there, that are leaking out of the gut, can then get into the brain, or it could be bacteria or viruses or heavy metals. Obviously, we don't really know. The research is still being done. But that is why, essentially, keeping your gut healthy is the most important thing for your brain health in the long term. This is just a summary. So they have found now that gut bacteria differs in people with and without Parkinson's. So that is interesting to know. And there's just a hell of a lot of research that's happening now into the gut as well, and it's looking quite positive. Okay, so back to constipation, because I know that is a topic of big interest. 6 out of 10 people with Parkinson's have constipation. So the main key that you can do to help yourself food-wise is to have fibre. So insoluble and soluble fibre. So fibre that absorbs water and fibre that doesn't absorb water. So a mixture of that. So you can do that easily by having lots of vegetables, fruit such as apples with the skin on. It's important to have the skin on because that's where you've got the pectin and the whole grains. So a really lovely way to just have that every day is oats soaked overnight in maybe coconut milk or milk with the skin, and then with the skin on stewed apples. So stew the apples separately, and then linseed, which is also known as flaxseed, which is a really great source of omega-3, which is also really useful. And then you could add some live yogurt. And that, I think, is a perfect breakfast to get you going. Something to note is as you keep increasing your fibre, you have to make sure you're increasing liquid because it will be absorbing water. Another couple of top tips for going to the toilet: exercise. I know Jane's favourite thing, so I had to mention it. Really important for the gut motility. And then a squatty potty. I don't know if people have heard of these things, but it's like a stool that you have around the base of the toilet, and it just raises your knees up. What it does is it puts you into the natural position for doing a poo, like we would have used to have done when we were squatting, pre having toilets, and it stops there from being a kink in your colon, because when you're just sitting, there's a kink, and it's actually quite hard for the poo to get through when you're when you're sitting. So raising your knees up can really, really help. Okay, now let me just check the time. Oh, we are quite far on. So prebiotics and probiotics. These are really important for the health of your gut. So probiotics are found in live foods, fermented foods like sauerkraut or yogurt, and then prebiotics are the food for your probiotics. So a good way of getting them is fried onions and garlic, which is obviously the basis of a lot of foods. And then, like we were saying earlier, the apples with their skin on and the seaweed. Okay, this is an example of a way of getting live food into your diet. It's called kefir. So it's fermented coconut milk. This one is, you can buy that in the supermarket. There's a link to that in the references. Okay, antioxidants. That's another really important part for your diet. These chemicals will help remove the free radicals that are harmful to your cells, and it's been proven that this is important in Parkinson's. So that is a quick shopping list for antioxidants. That is found in the Michael J. Fox diet research handout, so you can find that in the references too. It's really handy, that Michael J. Fox document. It's got a couple of shopping lists, which I really liked. This is a top tip from someone with Parkinson's. She absolutely lives off watermelon. I don't know if anybody else really likes watermelon, but it's really great for Parkinson's. It's high in glutathione, which is a detoxifying nutrient for the liver, and it's obviously full of water, which can be really helpful if you're dehydrated. So it's got the electrolytes and some other benefits too. It can help be more detoxifying to the body. So I think watermelon can be a really top tip if you like it. So on to fats. People often ask about coconut oil and the type of coconut oil called MCT, which is stands for medium chain triglycerides. These are shown to be helpful, and there's some anecdotal evidence that coconut oil can help with constipation, memory, and some other non-movement symptoms. There aren't any trials on this, but it's something that some people like doing. But it is a saturated fat, so if you are going to introduce it to your diet, then I would cut out butter and have that instead. So these are a couple of slides on food timing and medication, which I'm not going to go into now, but if people do want to ask questions about that, we can talk about that later. I know that is a big thing for people, making sure that they time their food with their medication. So these are the key actions for supporting your diet. So as I said, ask for a referral to a dietitian. If you need help with swallow, ask for that. If you need help with cooking and eating, chopping or holding a fork or anything like that, then ask for a referral to occupational therapist. If you don't ask for any of these things, you don't necessarily get. And, also your consultant won't know that you want those things, or that there is a need for those things. So do keep asking. And then we're going to get onto supplements later, so I won't talk about that now. Eat like a Mediterranean. There's a diet called the Mind diet that you might want to look up. That has got a trial that's been proven successful for people with Parkinson's. The daily bowel movement, and keeping a food diary. It's always a really good way of figuring out what you get on with and what you don't get on with. So do that over a week or so, and you might be quite surprised with what you see. Okay, so that is the end of the nutrition bit. So I don't know if you want to see if there's any questions on the nutrition bit.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions coming actually, Helen. I'm just glad to see red wine and chocolate on there. That's quite a bonus. Don't usually get any. There's not usually any good news on these things. So.
Yeah. Jason, eating like a Mediterranean is a good option, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's a couple of questions in the text box. In fact, there's another one just coming through. I've read that live bacteria is destroyed before it reaches the gut. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, so some of it will be, definitely, but what a lot. So if we're talking about taking a supplement, that some will get through. They have proven that it will get through to the gut, but obviously not all of it. And the same with live foods. Some will get through, but not all of it. So some of the supplements, they will try and do things to that supplement to make it be able to survive the difficult conditions of the stomach. But yeah, it obviously you are going to lose some.
It's still worth doing.
Well, I'm going to get onto the probiotics bit a bit more in the supplement section, because I think it is still worth doing personally, but that the evidence isn't totally in yet. But so say they're doing this trial at the moment on Simprove, the liquid probiotic drink. So they haven't basically collated all the research yet, but what they're saying is, yes, it does look positive, and people's well-being is marked as a lot better, and people's constipation is marked as a lot better. But they're not definitely saying, yes, you should take supplements yet, because you know how it is with science. They're super cautious. But if I had Parkinson's, I would be taking a probiotic.
Okay. Right, next question should be quite straightforward. Should linseed be whole seeds or milled?
Oh, good question. So when you mill linseed, if you then store it, it might go a bit rancid. So it's better to, if you're going to mill it and then use it. So don't buy the ground linseed that's in the packs, because you don't know how long that's been ground for. The other thing you can do with linseed, if you really want to make it good for constipation, is put a teaspoon or a dessert spoon in a glass of water and then leave it overnight, and it will go like jelly as it sort of swells, a bit like if you've ever done chia seeds or something like that. It goes like a kind of gelatinous mass. Then if you eat that will be really, really good for coating your whole gut and helping to move poo through.
Okay, a couple more come in. What's your opinion on dairy and sugar? That's an interesting one for you, Helen.
Dairy, if you're intolerant to it, then don't have it. If you're not intolerant to it, then it's a really good nutritional, food. So I always say to people, just monitor, like eat dairy and monitor your symptoms, and then cut it out for at least a couple of months, and then see how you are. And then basically this is like an elimination diet, then bring it back in. That's when you're going to see, am I intolerant to it? You're not really going to know otherwise. And to be honest, all of the tests that you can go and get done to see whether you're allergic to or intolerant to a food, none of them are very reliable. The most reliable thing is you and seeing how you react. And you can only really do that after you've stopped having it for a couple of months.
And they also ask about sugar.
Sugar is inflammatory. PD is an inflammatory disease. Cutting out sugar is probably a good idea, but you can still have some lovely stuff like dark chocolate with a little bit of sugar in it. You can still have fruit, but yeah, I would try and cut out sugar apart from when you have your birthday cake or whatever. You can have it now.
Okay, and the last one we'll take in this section. Yeah, you mentioned eat like a Mediterranean. Is there a link between North and South Europe and Parkinson's?
Oh, I don't know.
I'd
have to look into that. Yeah, no, I don't know. That's a really good question. I like it.
Good. Okay, Helen, we've caught up with the questions for now. Do you want to carry on now?
Okay, yeah, we'll carry on to supplements. Okay, supplements. Is there any point in taking supplements, and how can you trust if they are good quality? I think they're the two sort of top questions that I get asked. So I've put a link there, which will be in the reference document, to this online supplement supermarket, essentially. And basically it's set up by practitioners. So every supplement that's on that website is a reputable supplement. So that's basically where I go to buy all my supplements, because I know that there won't be anything on there that is, rubbish, that doesn't have good quality ingredients in it, or doesn't, isn't necessarily going to do what it says it's going to do. So I've put a few brands there that I recommend, but that is not an exhaustive list. So yeah, we're going on to the probiotic supplements one, because that is a really big question. So yeah, this trial that's happening at the moment with Simprove, which is a liquid probiotic drink. So basically it costs £79 for a month's worth of Simprove, which is a lot of money. So I can really see why people, they would have a bit of gulp, is that what I'm going to invest into doing? But that is the one that they're testing. So, that's what the evidence we're going to have is for that one. What's difficult about probiotic supplements is they all contain different strains of bacteria. And we don't know with Parkinson's yet which strains of bacteria are helpful and which strains are maybe not helpful. So essentially we're still in this grey area of guessing. So you could try taking Simprove, depends on your finances. There are other options. So I've recommended a couple. So Optivac is a company that I use a lot for probiotics. They seem to work really well for people for regulating gut function. And then there's this other company called Biomal who do that liquid drink that I showed you earlier. They do a powder called Complete Gut, which contains not only the probiotics, but it contains enzymes and prebiotic fibers. And what I like about it for Parkinson's is it's a powder, so you can just add it to drink. So if you're having swallowing difficulties, you're not going to have to swallow a capsule. This is a picture of the Simprove that they're using in the trial at the moment. Okay, next supplement. Probably the next biggest question is always about vitamin D. So I am really big on getting your blood tested. The NHS is there for things like blood tests. You can ask for them. and see what the result is. And if it's hanging around the low end of normal, you don't want it there, you want it higher. I like to see it at around 100, but I see a lot of people with it hanging around 50. So the general advice is to take 4,000 IU. I've done it as an example of one that I use a lot, the Lambert's one there. So that's probably the one I prescribe the most. However, it is in a little capsule. It's very tiny, but it's little. So if you have trouble swallowing, you might rather have a spray or drops. And I have put a link to some drops in the references. So there's basically, there's no reason to not take vitamin D. Even the very cautious scientists say, yeah, okay, people with Parkinson's do take vitamin D. There may be a link with vitamin D and decreasing fall risk, link with memory and verbal fluency and mood and smell. But also there's the other stuff to think about. Vitamin D is really implicated in your immunity. We know that now with COVID. Most doctors, even most GPs, will just say, please just take vitamin D. So that's a definite tick on your supplements list. Alongside vitamin D, it is important to have vitamin K because they work together. Vitamin K will ensure that the vitamin D that you're taking is going to transport the calcium that you're also eating into your bones rather than depositing it into arteries and soft tissue. You can get supplements that have vitamin D and K together, but they don't often have enough vitamin D for me, which is why I have the vitamin D separate to the vitamin K. If you don't want to take vitamin K as a supplement, you want to make sure you're having enough of vitamin K in your food. And luckily, live foods contain a lot of vitamin K. So yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, that kind of thing can be really helpful for that, and lots of leafy green vegetables, which can be really helpful for the fibre. So you don't necessarily need to take the vitamin K, just make sure you're having enough in your diet. B vitamins. This is another one that people often take with Parkinson's. B vitamins are really important for stress. Basically, when you're stressed, your body eats B vitamins up. There's also the idea that homocysteine is implicated in Parkinson's, and B vitamins break down homocysteine. So if you're not having enough B vitamins, then that could be a problem. B12. So this is a really big one for people with Parkinson's. As you age with Parkinson's, it's known that your B12 goes down and down. Through taking Parkinson's medication, that can reduce your B12 levels. And to complicate matters, B12 deficiency symptoms often mirror Parkinson's symptoms. So a lot of people find that once they get their B12 levels up, their Parkinson's, what they thought were their Parkinson's symptoms, get better. I really, really recommend making sure your B12 level is up. You can get that tested. That is one that a GP will regularly test for you. And they will sometimes give you B12 injections. I do know quite a lot of Parkinson's and other patients who pay privately to get B12 injections. So that is also an option. You want to take your B vitamin separate to your levodopa because it can have an interaction there, and you want to avoid that. Okay, fish oil, omega-3, also very implicated in brain health. They know that through a lot of research. However, I don't necessarily think you need to take an omega-3 supplement. Just try and have fish like 2 or 3 times a week, oily fish. Wild salmon, I do avoid farmed salmon because there's a lot of chemicals in it. Mackerel, sardines, trout. So they're all really good sources of oily fish. Magnesium is one of my favourite supplements. So I know quite a lot of Parkinson's patients that use magnesium to go to the toilet. Because it is what's known as an osmotic laxative, it will soften stools by drawing water from the rest of the body to your bowel and kind of bulking them so that they will pass. This does mean that you could dehydrate yourself further, so you really have to drink a lot more water. But for some people who are just really, really not going to the toilet, this can be, a bit of a lifesaver. There's lots of different forms of magnesium. Magnesium oxide is the one I would use if I really wanted to encourage bowel movements. But then if you just want to take a regular magnesium supplement, you want to take it daily for the other benefits, such as helping with muscle cramps, helping with fatigue, and magnesium is a relaxing mineral, so helping with sleep and stress, I would either take citrate, glycinate, or malate, probably magnesium glycinate if you're just heading for one in the middle. Okay, CoQ10, that's another one that is really talked about a lot. There was a lot of excitement and promise around CoQ10 as a really promising nutrient. However, they have done quite a big analysis on all the data from all the trials on CoQ10, and it has been concluded that it's not really that helpful for Parkinson's. However, that the evidence isn't that the trials weren't conclusive. The thing about CoQ10 is it's really expensive. So I think it's always going to be a case of, how much money do you want to spend on supplements? CoQ10 is an antioxidant. I would probably be like, how can I get more antioxidants into my diet rather than spending money on CoQ10, unless I was absolutely loaded, in which case I would just buy CoQ10 as well. I hope that makes sense. Okay, that's the end of the supplements bit. So are there any questions on the supplements?
Yes, there are a couple. Helen, yes, hang on. Richard asks, do you have a view on whether mercury in tooth amalgam is contributory to Parkinson's?
Am I aware of whether it is? Is that what you said?
So whether mercury, yes, mercury in tooth amalgam is contributory to Parkinson's.
Well, one of the hypotheses around Parkinson's causes of Parkinson's is heavy metal toxicity. So it's quite a possible idea that could be. A lot of people do have a lot of amalgam fillings, and obviously they're in your head, close to your brain. Some people do go and have them removed, but you have to go to a dentist that specializes in having them removed, and you have to wear a very specialist mask that sucks away the vapors from the mercury as it's being done. And even when you do that, you still will be exposed to way more mercury than if you just, in that moment, you'll be exposed to more mercury than if you just left them in your mouth, I think. So for a month or two after you've had them removed, you can feel really rotten, but then you might start feeling a lot better. So it's a difficult decision to make whether to get them removed or not.
Now, Nicholas has put some stuff in the chat box.
Oh, yeah.
That's his question at the bottom of it.
I take a vitamin oil mix called Active X. Yeah, I think I heard about this Active X. Yeah, D3, A, K2, and zinc. I think that's a great, all of those vitamins and minerals are useful. So yeah, if you're happy taking that and it's affordable, then I would take it.
It's not a problem about mixing, is it?
No, not at all. No, those are you can have those at the same time as each other. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Iron did it have iron on it?
I don't think so.
Iron is one that you want to take separately. No, it didn't have iron. Yeah, they're fine to take together.
Okay, thank you. And Sarah asked, do people with Parkinson's have more trouble absorbing nutrients?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
This is the root of the problem. They have reduced gastrointestinal function all the way through the tract, not just in the bowel, but everything takes longer. Like we talked earlier about the probiotics being destroyed in the stomach, because stomach transit time can be longer in people with Parkinson's. You can end up losing other nutrients because of the transit time being so long. And this can also happen with your medication. It can get stuck in your stomach for ages, and so you're not, if you're wondering why you're not coming on, it could be literally that your tablet is just still stuck in your stomach. So that's one way of it. And then the dysbiosis in the intestines, which is common with people with Parkinson's, will quite possibly mean that you will struggle to get as many nutrients from your food as someone without Parkinson's. So yeah, you are going to be, having to try harder to get those nutrients, which is why.
Yes. Yeah. Sarah's just asked the question: is there anything we can do to improve absorption?
So eating food that is nutrient rich to begin with. So following these diets like the Mediterranean diet or the Mind diet. So yeah, not putting food through that's kind of like waste food, like cakes or like nice food, junk food. Cider vinegar might be useful. That's one way, before a meal, having a little bit of apple cider vinegar in warm water before a meal, that can activate your digestion. It can get your liver working. It can get bile being produced. So by the time your food comes through, it's ready, and you can maybe absorb some more nutrients from it. And then balancing the gut flora with probiotics, that will have a knock-on effect of the whole ecology, and then that could hopefully help absorption.
Okay, a question. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to answer this one. Could our antiquated rusty water supply pipes cause Parkinson's? I don't think you can answer that.
I mean, are they lead pipes?
I have no idea. I don't think.
I would talk to your consultant about that.
Probably was.
I don't know. It could be part of the picture.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question's up on the screen. Is Actimel of any use, as the adverts say?
Actimel. I'm not a big fan of Actimel, but it does have live bacteria in it. But I prefer having like the kefir or the coconut kefir. I'm not sure if Actimel has sugar in it as well to make it taste nice, and that's something that you should probably avoid.
Okay.
But if you have Actimel rather than nothing is good.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they would, why they do that, but that's good if they do.
Well, that's really, really good. I wonder find out how you can do that.
Okay. Julia asks, I take one a day multivitamin advanced produced by Nature's Best in Tunbridge Wells plus separate turmeric. Your thoughts, please.
Nature's Best is a really good. Yeah, Nature's Best I like. Carry on with the Nature's Best. Turmeric, okay, we're going to get on to in
a minute.
In the herbal section. Yes, it's really
good.
And
the last one before we move on is I've been recommended keto BHB. Is that right? Any good?
Oh, I don't know what BHB stands for. So keto, there are benefits to the keto diet. It's really anti-inflammatory. However, it's really low on fiber because you're not having any grains. I mean, you're still having a lot of fiber from vegetables, but it wouldn't be my first go-to. because it's if you feel like you can try it, then try it and see. But for a lot of people to go onto a keto diet, that's a big shift. You know, you're not having hardly any carbohydrates. And you can end up having like keto flu, where you feel really quite rotten for a week or so. And the fiber is lower. Also, it's really high in protein and fat, so you might struggle to take your levodopa as well as having all these protein and fat meals. But I'd be really interested to hear from people who've tried keto and Parkinson's and see what that was like.
Okay, right, Helen, I should move on to the last bit because we're now about 12, 13 minutes. Better get on, okay?
I'll whiz through the herbs. Okay, let me remember how to do this. Okay, so we talked about seeing a herbalist before. We don't need to say that again. So yeah, the first one is turmeric, also called curcumin, which is one of the constituents of turmeric, which is the anti-inflammatory part of it. So yes, there are some studies that show that turmeric or curcumin can be helpful in Parkinson's. So I would be supplementing it either through diet or with a tablet. This is just an example of a turmeric tablet that you could take. Lambert's is a nice brand. That's a fast release one. But if you don't want to take a supplement, you can just have it through food. However, it is going to be, you have to have quite a lot, up to 1.5 teaspoons. To make the curcumin in the turmeric more absorbable, there is a constituent in black pepper called piperine that can help the turmeric be absorbed. So always mix a bit of black pepper. And some people think having a bit of fat with it helps as well. CBD, this is the big one. And it's also probably the most sort of controversial and most misunderstood, or like we don't really know yet about CBD and whether it's helpful for Parkinson's. There haven't been a lot of trials or research done into it. There is a trial happening at the moment that is for people with Parkinson's who have psychosis. So that will be very interesting to see what comes out of that, but the results probably won't be for a while. But so CBD, I don't know if everyone knows about it. It comes from marijuana, from the cannabis plant, and the CBD bit is the non-addictive bit that is not intoxicating. So it won't necessarily make you feel weird or stoned. The bit that makes you feel like that is called THC. However, CBD can make you feel sleepy and a bit spacey, but not, it shouldn't make you feel like you're having sort of visions or feeling like you're not in your body. CBD, so some people use CBD and they find it really helpful. Some people try CBD and they don't get on with it because they don't like feeling that kind of like wooziness. And some people it just doesn't touch the sides with. So it is a bit of a try it and see supplement. If you are going to try it for sleep, I would recommend that you take the indica variety. There's 2 varieties of cannabis, indica and sativa. Sativa is more wakey uppy. Indica is more sleepy. And then the other thing people use CBD for, not just in Parkinson's, but in arthritis and all lots of different conditions, is for pain. So that's also, it's quite possible that it can help with pain, but we don't know, and it's variable. Some people find it does, some people doesn't, and there's no definitive proof. So there's options with CBD. I just put a couple up here that I've used before. These are gummies, so they're like chewable, quite good if you're out and about. And then if you want to try an oil, which is a kind of the sort of traditional way to have CBD, I always use this one, CBD Brothers, and this is the indica oil. But the thing is, it's not that cheap. So it is a bit of a investment to just try it. Mucuna, also known as velvet bean. So this is probably the most famous herb for Parkinson's. It's an Indian herb. It has been used for thousands of years for what they didn't know was Parkinson's, but has been around for a long time. So it does actually contain L-DOPA. And there was a study that showed that it actually had a more rapid onset than taking L-DOPA, than taking levodopa. And a lot of people start taking mucuna before they go on to medications from the doctor, because they want to sort of try and extend the period before they're going on to levodopa, and it can be quite effective for some people to be on it for a year or even more. So dosage wise on the mucuna, probably the most common way of taking it is powder. Put a link to this shop, Indigo Herbs, which is where I normally get it from. Dose, you have to figure out your own dose. It's normally between 2 teaspoons to 3 tablespoons a day. 3 tablespoons a day. If you don't get on with the powder, you can try it as tincture, but that's probably harder to get a hold of. That might be something to get through a herbalist. And then you could grow the beans and have them fresh, but obviously that is quite a mission. Okay, and I think this is this is the last one. So this is a lovely herb, medicinal mushroom called lion's mane. So there's not any real proof of it working in humans, but there's a lot of promise with this. I feel really excited about lion's mane for its effect on the nervous system, and how it can rebuild the nervous system. There's a lot of excitement around how it could heal dopaminergic lesions, and delay cell death. So yeah, it could be a really promising one. With medicinal mushrooms, you want to make sure you always source them from a really reputable source, because when they're growing mushrooms, they absorb everything from their environment. So if we're avoiding heavy metals and toxins and everything that might be in the environment, then make sure it's organically grown or from a forest where they can guarantee that it's not going to be absorbing anything that you really don't want to be taking into your body. So what are we doing for time? Nearly on time. We've got 4 minutes for questions on herbs.
Yeah, well, I took mucuna, as you well know, for the first year only. So
yeah, how did you find that?
I think it worked, but the trouble is you do have to take an enormous amount of it eventually.
How much were you taking by the end? I can't remember.
Probably about that maximum dose you said. I was having to take it with orange juice to get rid of it, so it was quite.
Yeah. Did it taste pretty horrible?
It's not the easiest thing to get down, but it was a choice at the time. But I've heard mucuna beans are very prickly if you grow them. Be warned.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah. Anyway, there's some questions come up in the Q&A box. Is Farnesol helpful for PD? A recent piece in The Guardian.
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard of it. I'm sorry. I have to look it up.
Okay. Julia says, if you grow mucuna beans, can you take it with L-DOPA medication?
Some people do, but it's I think your consultant would probably be a bit wary of that. I would definitely, if you're going to do that, I would talk to your consultant about it, because they need to know, so they can get your dosage right. But yeah, generally it's advised not to, but some people do, and they say it works well for them.
Right, okay. There's a question went into the chat, which is the best CBD. I think you actually answered that in the session after it went into the chat, actually. But
I mean, there's so many CBDs out there. That CBD Brothers one I like because it's from the UK and it's grown in the UK, and they're really very strongly tested. But there's probably other really good ones as well.
Okay, this is a good one for you. If you had Parkinson's, what would you be taking? Go on then.
I reckon I'd definitely be on the Simprove. I would be making sure my vitamin and levels were optimal by having regular blood tests and making sure my B12 was in the higher end of the optimal range, not just okay. Definitely vitamin D, definitely magnesium. Basically everything I said.
You have to have a wheelbarrow for all the tablets, so that's the only trouble.
Definitely lion's mane.
All right. Yes, Nicholas asked, where can you get it?
Yes, sorry, there was a link on there. I always get my mushrooms from this company called MycoNutri. You can get the lion's mane as a powder or as a tablet. There's a link in the references.
Okay, lovely. It's going to be quite a big reference document we're going to send out. Now,
it's a really big document, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Well, I think people can read it or not. They can choose. It's going to be coming out as an email, so it's not the end of the world if they don't want to read it. But
yeah.
Okay. So everybody, the questions have. Oh no, one more's just popped into the. Let's take one more if there's. Fantastic amount of information. Can we get a copy of your slideshow?
Yeah, definitely. I can forward that as well.
Do you have to go to a dietitian to get your vitamin levels checked?
Your GP can do it. Often they're a bit resistant because they don't want to spend their practice funding on blood results. It's always a bit of a potluck, like what your GP will do. The dietitian should do it.
Thank you, Helen, for that very informative talk and for answering all our questions. Thank you for your time this evening. I will put the links document that Helen has mentioned onto the website for you to look at, and also her set of slides. Thanks to Jason today for helping in the background with the technical side.